My sister dropped her kids off at my house and demanded I babysit them while she goes on an 8-week vacation. When I threatened to report her to the police, she arranged to have me assaulted in my own home so she could take them back. Unlike real gold, kids raised as golden children never turn out to be as pure as their parents see them growing up. My sister always got her way. No matter how nasty or irrational she acted towards me, she got away with it all the time, and that's because she was the golden miracle child. What aided this most likely was also that my sister was stunningly beautiful. She had thick, curly hair and light eyes, and my mom spent a lifetime comparing our looks. I have dark eyes and straight hair, and I was never as pretty as my sister. My mom loved making comments comparing us after we both became teenagers. She was constantly telling me to try and dress like my sister and asking her to teach me makeup. But my sister would also bully me and make fun of me if I ever asked her for help making myself prettier. That's how we grew up to be extremely resentful of each other. I think my sister just latched onto the worst traits that we saw in my mother while I rejected them all. I think being put on a pedestal her whole life by my mom for simply being beautiful turned her into a rotten person who doesn't care about anyone but herself and thinks she can get away with anything just because of her looks. The way my mom compared us and put me down led to me having a lot of self-esteem issues, and as an adult, I am very quiet and reserved, and some people describe me as a pushover. Recently, I have been going to therapy to try to grow a stronger spine, even though it has been hard trying to stand up for myself and my relationships. For the very first time, I feel like the way my family treated me really screwed me up as an adult, and it's hard for me to maintain any healthy friendships or romantic relationships. My sister even slept with my boyfriend in high school and senior year, and for no real reason. She never liked him and told me many times she thought he was ugly. My parents told me to let bygones be bygones when they found out what had happened. My sister wasn't even given out to, and that was a moment where I truly realized just how much they preferred her over me. The way that my dad just stood by and watched my mom emotionally get under my skin for my entire life made me feel like no man would ever stand up for me or see worth in me, and it's very hard for me to trust and connect when dating. But my entire life hasn't been completely awful because of my mom and sister. Because the one upside of being the ugly sister growing up meant that I had zero social life and spent all my time studying. I ended up graduating high school with a 4.0 and landed myself a full ride at my #1 choice for university. Which was great because my mom told me the night before I started high school that she was paying for my sister's college, since she was the eldest, but I would have to go to community and pay my way through it on my own. I remember sobbing and asking her why she didn't love me like she loved my sister, and she insisted that she did, but my sister deserved it more since she was her firstborn. The day I had landed my scholarship, I spent the entire day so excited to tell my parents about it. I guess part of me was kind of happy to have something that my sister didn't. My sister had spent all her time in high school partying and earning poor grades without any flack from my parents, and she was only going to college because my parents could pay for it. She wasn't even going to a very good one because her grades are so crap. So the day I rushed home to tell my family that I'd gotten a full ride to a prestigious university, I had never been so excited to share good news with my family. But when I got home and told my parents about my scholarship, oh, my dad said was good job, and my mom didn't even look up from her phone or give me any response. Then she ignored me for the entire week. After I had shared that news, I tried to ask her why she was mad at me for getting a scholarship for college, but she literally just avoided making eye contact with me and walked into the other room. It was like she literally hated me for earning my scholarship when most parents would be excited. Whatever. That's when I started to understand just how alone I was and how isolated my family wanted me to feel. I didn't understand why either. Why had my mom even had me just to spend a lifetime hating me and in turn making me hate myself? The day I got my scholarship turned into one of the worst days of my life, as I cried myself to sleep and accepted that I would never have a family that loved me. Not like my sister did. And I despised her for it. That night I wrote in my journal until the sun rose about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I was tired of being this sad little girl, and I decided I was going to transform every ounce of rage I had into academic success. Instead of throwing myself a pity party and begging my parents for love and attention, I was going to redirect all my focus and energy to my studies, as I always had, and give myself something they never could. I was going to be stable, independent, intelligent, and educated, even though I might never be loved. So that's exactly what I did. I went to school and graduated with honors. I got a fantastic position in a company I interned for right out of college, and I've been making six figures since I turned 23. When I came home for the holidays, I would tell my family about how I was doing, and I would get random compliments from extended family members. But my own parents never went out of their way to acknowledge or congratulate me for my accomplishments. As an adult, I knew better than to tell my mom about my high position at my company or how much I was making, since I knew it would just make her resent me more. But I told my dad, and one year he even told me that he was happy for me, and it was the nicest thing either my parents have ever told me. But even as an adult, my mom still treated me like an unwanted guest, and although I only saw them during the holidays, she would do everything in her power to get the attention off me if anybody asked me a question or directed the conversation towards me. For example, we were having Christmas dinner one year when my uncle congratulated me on a promotion I had been telling him about earlier that day. It was my second promotion within the company, and I had gotten a significant raise as well. I had been telling him about how I was looking into purchasing my first house. My uncle mentioned the promotion and the potential house, and a few other extended family members congratulated me and were pretty unexpectedly kind about the news. Another one of my cousins asked me what area I was house shopping in, and that's when my mom cut me off and said, "This is boring, can we change the conversation?" Then, under her breath, I heard her say, "It's probably not even true." Anyway, I ended up purchasing my house later that year, and when I posted about it on social media, everybody in my family liked the post except for my mom. I knew she was probably angry because my sister was having a completely opposite life experience than me. She had gone to college right out of high school, all paid for by my parents, and ended up failing out and getting pregnant by her first college boyfriend. I had a sneaking suspicion that my parents had asked her to get rid of the pregnancy, but she ended up keeping it and tried making it work with her baby daddy that she had only known for 4 months. Well, it turns out that they were completely incompatible, but I guess that didn't stop them from trying to make things work or solve their relationship by having another kid. I remember having to hold back tears when I saw her posting about having a second child, since I knew the baby was probably being born into a toxic environment since my sister was such an awful person, as was her baby dad. I had met him at the holidays, but he never even bothered to remember my name or make conversation with me, and every year he would bring home trays of food despite not bringing anything. Obviously, my sister and I's relationship did not improve as we grew up, and we basically didn't talk to each other once we were both moved out of our parents' place. We had each other on social media, and the few times where we would see each other during the holidays, my sister would make nasty comments to me about my weight or the way I was dressing. I honestly think she was just projecting because I wear a lot of designer clothes and I like cycling through my designer purses, and she would constantly ask me what fake a purse I had brought. This time one year, as soon as I walked in the door for Thanksgiving, she looked me up and down and said verbatim, "I see you're dressed up again like the stuck-up Bets you are." It was so ridiculously rude and uncalled for, and she would even constantly insult me right in front of her kids using curses and everything. Despite her kids being young, I don't feel bad saying that my sister is pure trash and that I didn't feel bad for anything I did after she dumped her kids on my doorstep out of nowhere one day. I had just been relaxing in my house one weekend morning after a long work week when my doorbell rang, and I was completely shocked to see my sister's 10- and 7-year-olds standing on my front porch holding overnight bags. When I asked them what they were doing here, they said their mom was going on vacation for 8 weeks and that she said I was watching them. My sister and I hadn't spoken since our family's July 4th barbecue, where she told me not to have more than one plate because she was sick of staring at my muffin top. I had no idea why she thought I would be her free babysitter for 2 months. My nephews were good, quiet kids who were obviously confused as well, so I let them inside while I started calling my sister. My sister ignored my first 10 calls, but I kept at it until she finally answered. As soon as she picked up, I said that there was no way that I was watching her kids, and that if she wasn't here to pick them up herself, as soon as possible then I will be calling CPS on her. I was literally Googling the number for Child Protective Services while I had her on speaker when she dropped a bombshell on me. Her voice got incredibly deep and scary as she blackmailed me by saying that she would call my job and inform them that I was not taking my bipolar medication and get me fired. even though my sister was an idiot who didn't understand anything about my job. My career was the most important thing to me, and I couldn't risk anyone threatening my position there. I just hung up after she said that, and tried to figure out what to do next was going to explode from the stress. Not only could I not watch her kids, but I had a trip planned a month from then to go visit my long-distance boyfriend Eric all the way in Australia and meet his family for the first time. We had been dating for a while, and I had been anticipating this trip all year. It was so important since he was introducing me to his mom and dad, and I wanted it to go perfectly. Now my life was thrown into chaos all because of my moron sister, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea who else to call other than my mom, and I shouldn't have been surprised that she sided with my sister just like she had literally always done. I told my mom that my sister hadn't even come to drop her own kids off, and she said that they were old enough to come to my house alone. Anyway, my mom started guilting me and saying that my sister has done a lot for me, and that I needed to be there for her just this one time, since I never was. That made me lose my mind, and I screamed at her at the top of my lungs, and asked her to tell me one single time where my sister has been there for me or improved my life in any way. When I hung up the phone, my body was trembling with rage. I couldn't believe that after everything, my sister was still trying to manipulate my life, and my mom, as always, was on her side. I sat on the couch for a while, looking at my nephews. They were sitting on the floor, quietly playing with some toys they brought in their bags. I knew it wasn't their fault, but the whole situation disgusted me deeply. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I couldn't let my sister get away with this time. She had crossed every line imaginable. I got up and walked to the kitchen, where I grabbed a bottle of wine. After pouring myself a large glass, I started thinking about a plan. I was tired of being trampled by her and my mom, and this time, things were going to be different. I decided I was not going to watch her kids. My life was finally on the right track, and I wasn't about to throw everything away because of my sister's irresponsibility. I picked up the phone and made a few calls. First, I called work and explained the situation to my boss. I told him that my sister was blackmailing me with false information about my mental health, and he was very understanding. He assured me that if she did call, he knew exactly how to handle it. That took a huge weight off my shoulders. Next, I called Child Protective Services, CPS. I explained the situation, told them my sister had left her kids with me without any notice, and that she was nowhere to be found. They asked for some details and said they would come by my house to speak with me and the children. Just knowing that my sister would face legal consequences for her irresponsibility gave me a sense of justice I had never experienced before. As I waited, I started planning what I would say to my mom. I knew she would call eventually, probably trying to guilt-trip me or manipulate the situation as she always did. But this time, I was ready to face her. I was tired of being the daughter who had to swallow her pride, stay quiet, and take the emotional trash my family threw at me. CPS arrived about an hour later. I talked to the social workers, explained everything, and gave them my sister's contact information. They spoke to the kids, who, although confused, confirmed that their mom had gone on vacation without telling anyone. When the social workers left, they assured me they would be conducting a full investigation. I knew my sister was in serious trouble when she came back from her vacation and found not only her kids gone, but also a visit from the authorities. Finally, my mom called. As expected, she was furious. "How could you do this to your sister?" she started, screaming through the phone. "She trusted you, and now you're going to get her in trouble with the authorities? You've always been so selfish." I closed my eyes, trying to stay calm, but this time, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to take it anymore. Selfish. I laughed in disbelief. "You think I'm selfish? My entire life, I've been treated like the trash of this family, while the Golden Princess could do whatever she wanted. She dropped her kids off for 2 months without even asking if I was available, without even bothering to show up. And you think that's fair? And, of course, you're on her side, as always. You've never cared about me, my successes, or my pain. But you know what? That's over. I'm done being your doormat. Not yours, not hers." "You've always been so ungrateful," she screamed back. "Your sister is going through a hard time, and all you can think about is yourself. I raised you to be a good daughter. But look what you've become. Do you really want to see your sister ruined? I laughed again, but this time bitterly. The whole conversation sounded ridiculous. A good daughter? I asked. You raised me to be a second-rate doll, someone you could compare, ridicule, and ignore, while you gave everything to my sister. I was never good enough for you, no matter what I did. I got a full scholarship, graduated with honors, have a successful career, and you still treat me like I'm nothing. And now you want me to take care of your precious daughter's kids while she disappears for 2 months? No way. There was tense silence on the other end of the line. I could feel the fury building inside my mom, but this time I wasn't afraid. I was finally saying what I should have said my whole life. You want me to be the supportive sister? I continued, my voice steady for the first time. Then where was my sister when I needed her? Where was she when she stole my boyfriend, laughed in my face about getting a scholarship, or made horrible comments about my body? No, Mom, I'm done. You both made your choices. Now, I'm making mine. She stayed quiet for a moment, and I knew the words were finally hitting her, even if she would never admit it. Finally, she let out a heavy sigh and said, You'll regret this. Your sister will never forgive you. Well, I'm not interested in her forgiveness anymore. And if you keep defending this madness, I'm not interested in yours either. I hung up the phone before she could respond. For the first time in my life, I felt an indescribable freedom. I knew things might get worse before they got better, that my mom and sister would do everything to tear me down, but I was ready. I was finally in control of my own life, and for the first time, I had done something for myself. That night, I slept peacefully, knowing that in the end, the chaos my sister had brought to my doorstep would come back to haunt her. And me, I would move on, with no regrets, and never look back. A few weeks after everything happened, I was finally starting to feel a little peace. CPS had already contacted my sister, and I knew she was furious, but she hadn't shown up yet. She was probably trying to find a way to get out of the mess, just like she always did. Meanwhile, I was focused on moving forward, finally getting ready for my trip to Australia to visit Eric and meet his family. It was the only thing that brought me some relief in all of this chaos. Then, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I knew it would be her. My heart was racing, but this time I was ready. When I opened the door, there she was, looking more disheveled than usual, her face twisted in anger. You think you can ruin me? She snapped, storming into my house without even a greeting. What you did was unforgivable. Calling CPS? Exposing my kids like that? You're a monster. I crossed my arms, keeping my posture firm. I wasn't afraid of her anymore, and now, her attempts to intimidate me felt pathetic. I'm the monster? I replied, keeping my voice calm despite the urge to explode. You dropped your kids at my door, without asking me, without caring if I had the time or interest to take care of them, while you ran off for 2 months. That's not being a mother. That's being irresponsible. And now you want to blame me for calling CPS? If anyone has been a monster in this story, it's you, not me. She trembled with rage, but I could see the surprise in her eyes. For the first time, someone was truly standing up to her, and she didn't know how to handle it. You've always been jealous, she spat. You always wanted what was mine. Now that I'm just trying to live my life, you want to destroy me. You've been like this since we were kids. You can't stand to see me happy, can you? I laughed, a bitter, cold laugh that came from years of resentment. Jealous? Of what? I asked, incredulous. Of someone who's never done anything for herself? Who always needed mom to fix everything? Someone who never managed to accomplish anything in life without others paying for it. Look at you, living a miserable life, full of fights and regrets. Do you really think I ever wanted your life? The only thing I ever wanted was peace, something you and mom never gave me. And now that I'm finally finding it, you want to barge in and take it away, too. She was silent for a moment, trying to process my words. But instead of understanding, her anger only grew. She stepped forward as if trying to intimidate me physically. You have no idea what you're talking about, she shouted. You think just because you have a good job and a nice house, you're better than everyone else? I raised 2 kids on my own, while you're off living your selfish empty life. I stepped forward as well, meeting her gaze directly. I wasn't going to back down. Selfish. My voice was cold, measured. I'm not the one who dumped my kids like they were a burden for someone else to take care of. I'm not the one who tried to ruin my sister's life with pathetic blackmail. The truth is, and you know this, you're mad because for the first time, you can't control me. For the first time, I'm living my life without caring about what you or Mom think. And you know what? I'd rather be selfish and happy than live the miserable, bitter life you chose. She was speechless, but I knew she wouldn't give up that easily. Her eyes filled with tears of rage. "You're going to regret this," she screamed. "I'm your sister. How could you betray me like this? I will never forgive you." And when Mom finds out, I cut her off, raising my hand. "Enough." My voice was firm, unwavering. "I don't care about your forgiveness anymore. I've spent my whole life begging for something I never got, and now I finally realize I don't need you or Mom. I don't care what she thinks or does. The life I have now, I built it on my own, without any help from either of you. And I will continue to live my life in peace, without your drama and blackmail." She stared at me as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing, and I knew in that moment that something had changed forever. She had expected me to back down like I always did. But this time there was no fear, no guilt. There was only freedom. "Now, get out of my house." I pointed to the door. "And don't come back. Our relationship is over. Go live your life however you want, but leave me out of it." She hesitated for a moment, but when she saw I wasn't going to give in, she turned sharply and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of that moment dissolve. As painful as it was the first time I truly felt in control of my life. After that day, we never spoke again. Not her, not my mom. The silence that followed was strange at first, but I soon realized just how liberating it was. I was finally free from the chains my family had placed on me my entire life. As for my nephews, I truly felt sorry for them, but I knew I couldn't sacrifice my own peace to fix the mess my sister had created. It wasn't their fault, but I couldn't be the solution. And even with that difficult decision, I moved on, focusing on building a life that was truly my own. Years later, I still look back and think about that final conversation with my sister. I don't feel regret. In fact, I feel immense gratitude for finally breaking free from that toxic cycle. Sometimes, the peace we seek comes from cutting the ties that bind us to suffering, and I chose peace. And I've never looked back.